Hearthstone Grandmasters European region, SilverName Kolento, game number 1. It's coming up pretty darn soon. But the deck list, we're going to talk about these for a second here. SilverName has brought the mech hunter yet again. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I want to say mech zoo for some reason.
I mean, it's kind of a zoo-ish deck.
Yeah, there's like bears and spiders, and they're mechanical, but they're there.
I mean, that sounds like an awesome zoo. Robo animals?
It sounds like a scary zoo.
Yeah, that's true.
Robots are frightening. Kolento's got a more actual zoo look kind of thing. Let's take a look at the deck list and see what's going on here. For Kolento, he's brought the Beast Hunter, and SilverName has brought the Mech Hunter. And the Mech Hunter feels like last week it was so close to just being super strong. We saw it impressive in a couple of games, but something's missing.
The thing is, though, the difference between being super strong and super weak with a lot of these board-based decks is like, it's night and day. Like, if it's not good enough, it's terrible. There's no kind of gray area where it's almost good enough and you might win some games. Because a lot of the time for SilverName with this deck, it felt like he was losing board early on, he wasn't getting that much damage through, and he had to rely on Missile Launcher plus the Venomizer to be able to pull back the games.
Which is a real good combo.
Absolutely. It's definitely something to consider. But I am hesitant to call this a very good bring this week.
When you have Harvest Golem in your tertiary deck, this is a card we played half a decade ago to try to obtain board control. I don't know if this works or not. I have noticed that Explodinator, when it's played against me, I'm quite afraid of due to magnetic stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like just something's missing with this deck. I'm curious to see it again. Maybe he just got. But there's a Leroy in here for some extra damage. It's a cool deck, but you know, at the end of the day, you have to obtain board control. That is paramount, and if you can't get that, it's going to be tough. And against a deck that's running 2 Headhunters Hatchet and Unleash the Hounds and Master's Calls and Dire Frenzies, it can be hard to take board control.
It can. Yeah, this is somewhat of a strange matchup because obviously as the game progresses into the late game, Kolento is undeniably at an advantage if he can stabilize the board state. Obviously with Dire Frenzy, Zul'jin, any kind of fatigue state is way in his advantage, although it's unlikely it'll get to that point. I think the main thing he needs to be afraid of is the fact that this Hunt deck can struggle removing every minion every single turn. A lot of the time you want to let them develop a little bit and then swing things back with a big Unleash or a Spring Pour turn in combination with the Timberwolves that you have in your deck as well. And so I think, therefore, because he's leaving these mechs in place, SilverName might be able to get off to a bit of an advantage with the magnetization synergy that is in his deck, which is the real advantage, because he should be magnetizing minions and pushing face as quick as he can in this game. He wants to end this very quickly.
All right, well, pretty good opening hand for SilverName.
That's a way to do it.
Mecharoo Fireworks Tech. I think Fireworks Tech speaks volumes for exactly what this deck is trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when you start magnetizing on the replicating menaces or the spider bombs. That Fireworks Tech can be absolutely absurd.
It is kind of cool to me, Fireworks Tech in this deck, where it serves a utility purpose, but sometimes it just serves a swarming the board purpose as well.
As we're very likely to see in this game.
Oh,
this 1-2 curve is pretty disgustingly powerful.
I would be quite surprised if SilverName did not open with that style of start. You know, Kolento having Spring Paw and Vicious Scalehide, he might be able to just stop that. It kind of depends on what he wants to do, but this looks like an easy Spring Paw when you can see both hands, but when you cannot, you're thinking of all the tricky things you can do with Spring Paw and Scavenging Hyena right now.
Yeah, I mean, from Kolento's side, I'm actually wondering at the possibility of a Scalehide, because I think in some capacity, I like killing off this Mecharoo because of exactly Fireworks Tech. It's too scary to leave that up. Obviously, if you kill it off, it still gets the +1/+1 buff, but it loses out an entire 1/1 Death Rattle, which is all the difference in the world.
I think the exact thing that Kolento's thinking about is, what if I don't attack? What does that represent? And how does SilverName actually respond? Because I think a lot of times, if you're running Fireworks Tech here, what's happening is their board's going to develop wide, and you have Scavenging Hyena and Unleash the Hounds.
It's true.
Now, my thinking on that would be, I imagine you're probably going to get a turn like that anyway.
Yeah.
Why let it snowball early?
Yeah, I think you just want to be protecting your health total a little bit, because Kolento only has one Vicious Scalehide in his deck, and while he does have it in his hand, which means he can throw that down whenever necessary, if he can't find himself a Dire Frenzy to buff that Vicious Scalehide up and then redraw the versions he shuffles into his deck, I think he could be starting to struggle.
It's a nice turn here for Kolento. This puts SilverName to a test. Where on turn 3, there's Venomizer, there's Spider Bomb, and there's another Firework Tech that answer this. And all of those answers leave you with, at most, a 2-1 in play.
And as we can see here for SilverName, a hand that was looking like absolute gold, Kolento has just managed to pretty handily dismantle, only having a 2-1 in play for SilverName at the end of this entire exchange. Kolento can now really start to just develop his own board plan. He doesn't even have to kill off the Fireworks Tech on this turn because it's not a mech. That magnetization synergy that I was saying Kolento needs to be so afraid of, this is the turn to fill up his hand with all those combo pieces. Then on the following turns, he can just let rip with all his minions and swing the board back in his favor.
You're seeing what I mean about Explodinator, though. Like, this is the one that it's felt hard for me to kill. Like, you have to have this turn in order for this to work.
And this is what Kolento was moving towards very clearly. Even just the fact that I believe he kept the Master's Call in his starting hand, which I think is absolutely correct. It's pretty much what you do in almost every matchup, is holding onto that Master's Call. He's building up these kind of synergies right from the get-go.
SilverName, you saw the exacerbated look on his face as Unleashed Timberwolf came down. That is pretty much the only turn he did not want to see from Kolento's deck. And
this is just exactly what Kolento needs to do, because if he's just trading minion for minion, turn after turn, you can get into the position where if the Mech Hunter pulls ahead on board just for one turn, you can find yourself in a little bit of trouble because they just magnetize on, and kill you very quickly. This situation for SilverName, a 5-mana 5/5, a Ziliax that doesn't heal, this all just looks absolutely miserable for him. I think he has to save onto the Ziliax. I think that's his way to come back into this game.
I'm not too certain exactly how he gets back into this one. My head goes towards, if you're going to stick something to board, it has to be Bomb Toss and then magnetize the Spider Bomb. That's the only way to ensure that a minion on your side lives in the face of what's currently happening. And when that's the case, you feel really bad. Setting up that kind of turn with 2 cards left, you just don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got another option, though.
I mean, I guess the only option is whether or not you magnetize. Is there any benefit to...
If you don't magnetize, you're left with a 0/2.
Right, but then I'm thinking if they leave a 0/2, then you have something to magnetize onto on the following turn. Because if you have 2 minions in play, maybe Kolento slips up and leaves the Goblin Bomb alive, but I think even then, that's very hopeful thinking.
Yeah. In addition to that, the way I see it is if your opponent's going to eliminate this, Kolento needs to use more minions.
Yeah.
He's got to have Dire Frenzy. He's got to have Kill Command.
Okay.
In some way, you get a benefit from it.
Yeah.
And
I think this is better. I was just looking at the possibilities.
I guess the way that I would break it down as simply as I could is make your opponent have something to kill it.
Yeah. Okay.
They often will. But make them have it.
Maybe
sometimes they won't.
Yeah, exactly. And for SilverName, he's in this... I would say he's in as bad as a position that he has to start playing to these fringe outs where Kolento can't kill off this minion.
And this is what we saw last week with SilverName versus Hunter. You know, is he just getting bad matchups with Hunter specifically? Is this deck just not getting the job done? Like, I feel like it's always so close.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what he's trying to punish with this Mech Hunter. At a guess, I would say Mage is what he's trying to target with this deck, because you can get a lot of early aggression turn after turn. And to be fair, Kolento has brought the same Mage deck 2 weeks in a row prior to this, so maybe SilverName got the read that he would be going for the Mage again and tried to aggro him out of the game. But Kolento is, at this point, trying to shake up his game plan, not become too predictable. And it just means that SilverName is in a miserable position.
Ooh. So the Deadly Shot is interesting to me. I imagine Kolento's going to be on the Vicious Scalehide turn because this is why he had set up for this with the Dire Frenzy. And now those are in the deck. I imagine he feels super secure in playing the Kolento game plan. Kill everything my opponent does and never let them have a good decision to make.
I absolutely agree. I think that this is... I really like as well the decision from Kolento. It's worth bringing up that he did not play Dire Frenzy on the previous turn when there was the 2/4 Goblin Bomb in play, even though it would have been very powerful on that turn, just because by playing it on the Scale Hide, it closes out even just the fringe possibility that SilverName can go for a damage lethal. There is Leroy in the deck, there's Goblin bomb tosses in the deck. Maybe he could get somewhere with a Boom Monster Clark as well. But now, with all this heal stuffed into Kolento's deck, it's going to be very difficult for SilverName to come back.
When your opponent kills your minion and then plays Unleash the Beast, you're like, oh, I'm super dying. We did see SilverName in last week very consistently move over to his secondary deck, which includes 2 copies of 9 Lives.
We did.
2 copies of Mechanical Whelp and a Cairn Bloodhoof. I feel like this is appropriate to talk about given the position we're in this match. Kind of watching it pan out, I feel like this secondary deck is necessary to have as part of the lineup.
Yeah.
Albeit, I don't think that you can necessarily afford to play it main deck and, you know, accounting for aggressive strategies from your opponent.
I was just thinking that because pretty much every matchup we've seen him so far, he's switched over to the secondary deck, I think, just because it has a little bit more juice. Because in his primary games, consistently, SilverName is getting into exactly these situations where he just runs out of cards. And as we can see now, by not playing the Venomizer, he is playing to the exact out of getting Missile Launcher. Yep. That's the only way he gets back into this game.
And that's, you know, largely part of the reason that Kolento is never going to be using that Deadly Shot is exactly for that combo,
okay,
which does show up.
There we go. We got a game.
Well, there's a Deadly Shot on the other side.
We don't have much of a game. I never said it was a good game, but we've got a game.
I said GG, but it wasn't GG. That's such a cool combo, though. That's actually how we saw Tice lose his second game to SilverName last week.
That is correct.
He could not.
Yeah.
He did not have a way in the deck naturally to handle Missile Launcher with Venomizer.
Even then, it was only so good because the Mechanical Whelps were in the deck. So SilverName could consistently magnetize the combo on top of his already existing big minions. Whereas here, as you can see, this Hunter deck actually plays removal, unlike Cyclone Mage. And we're just in a situation now where SilverName is losing tempo because he can't spend all his mana every turn.
Yeah, we've hit that mark.
We have hit that mark.
Sometimes you just gotta lose.
I guess we could see like Scale Hide, Frenzy, the Scale Hide, and then tracking to try and find another Scale Hide.
I mean, there's only 5 more left in the deck after this. Yeah. They don't maintain the 7 attack. They make 3 copies at 1/3 and then gives those +3/+3. So they're all still 4/6s.
Unleash the Beast, I guess.
Take your pick.
Yeah. Well,
you could take nothing here. Just leave the card in your hand the rest of the game. I think you're fine. Just absolutely dominant opening game.
And this is where I think the strategy becomes very interesting for SilverName as to, does he try and cement what his advantage looked like it was going to be this game in aggression, just try and close out the game quickly before stuff like this happens? Or are you pretty certain that he switches over to his secondary deck and goes for the value play?
I mean, I think his opening hand was pretty quick in this one.
It was a good hand, right?
Yeah, and it didn't work. So when it doesn't work, that tells me slow it down a bit, get some bigger stuff, and really put him to the test. You know, you look at Kolento's deck list, we're looking at a single copy of Deadly Shot, and in the secondary deck, he could add another copy of Deadly Shot. In his tertiary deck, he could add another copy of Deadly Shot. But the way that I look at it is, there's 2 Deadly Shots. That's what solely answers a Missile Launcher combo. So play some bigger stuff to try and punish the fact that that's the lone removal that's there.
So I guess then this is where a little bit of mind games enters in, because if Kolento switches over to his secondary deck, is that good against both the primary and secondary deck from SilverName?
That's a good question. I mean, I think looking at what's happened so far, that Beast Hunter is just good in this matchup.
It seems pretty good.
I think Unleash the Hounds is just too powerful of counterplay for the Mech Hunter to really push past it. Like every single time you're trying to get the board, you're playing into their major defensive swing turn.
If he does switch over to his secondary deck, though, Vicious Scale Hide is removed, which is does open up possibilities for SilverName to, even if he does switch over to his secondary, more value-oriented deck, just go a lot more aggressive. It's still Bomb Hunter, Mech Hunter that can play super aggressive. So maybe Kolento, because of the necessity for him to heal throughout the course of the game, will just stick on his primary.
It's what I imagine being such. I think Vicious Scalehide and Dire Frenzy is a heck of a combo, as we saw in that game. Quick break. When we come back, game number 2, and we'll find out what decks they've moved on to in this one.
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
I'm George Webb, known as Board Control in-game. So my name, Board Control, you would always say this player has board control when you're casting something, and if there's a Stone Chest board on board, suddenly that player has board control. The memory that stands out to me from Hearthstone has to be my first tournament victory, which was at Seat Story House Cup 10. I had to face off against Orange in the semi-finals, Chansifka in the quarters, Fino in the round of 16, so it was a pretty stacked event, and then facing Casey in the final, winning that tournament, that really stands out as the main memory. I like to play decks that get on board, and you have swing turns, and you have trades, lots of trades on the board, you try and get an edge in that sense. I'm also open to playing lots of other decks like combo decks too, but in general in Hearthstone, spending your mana and playing a guy has been the best play you can do. In Grandmasters, I want to do well. It's a new format, best of 3, so it's going to be more difficult to get an edge, but I'll try my best to find that edge and do as well as I can in the tournament.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters. We are amidst our first match here in the European region. We just saw Board Control. Got to know a little bit more about him. He's playing the 4th match of the day versus Tice, and sitting at a 1-3 record. Board Control is going to need a win, I think, in this 5th match. But we're on to game number 2, Kolento versus SilverName. Kolento has stayed on the primary deck. He says that's good enough. Yep. And as anticipated, SilverName has swapped over to the secondary deck, the bigger stuff.
I think this makes sense from both players, primarily for Kolento. The fact that he would be losing Vicious Scalehide and even Mark Shot for a little bit of extra removal can be very useful in this matchup. And then from SilverName, I think just the ability to not run out of cards right at the start of the game will be so useful. As you can see here, the key spotlight cards that are teched into this secondary deck, Mechanical Whelp, Cairn Bloodtooth, and 9 lives. The amount of value that this deck can accrue is actually quite staggering. Going from a deck that just runs out of cards very quickly every game to a value-generating powerhouse with only 5 cards is a good idea for a tech inclusion, I think.
Yeah, and Kolento, I imagine, can anticipate that this was the case, although he's not going to know that until he sees something changed in it. And since the changes are 9 lives, Cairn, and Mechanical Whelp, you often don't see the changes for a while.
That's a good point.
So that's something Kolento is going to have to do guesswork about. With SilverName's hand. And I imagine for SilverName, you're looking for some of the more key stuff. You know, given what I saw last game, I'm thinking Galvanizer, Ursatron.
Yeah.
Those are probably my only keeps.
It's interesting because we have seen SilverName deviate from the more standard lines of play with Mech Hunter of going for, like you said, curving out with playing each minion on curve and trying to get a good Galvanizer start. He has kept Missile Launcher and Venomizer in his starting hand before. And so I wonder if, therefore, he will go for a slightly slower hand, as we saw he could have done by keeping some of those cards at the start. But in the end, I think he came to the conclusion he wants a lot more early game stuff.
Yeah. You just want stuff. Stuff is good. Stuff.
And I guess that's the benefit of having these tech cards in your deck, is you don't even have to draw them at the start, and they're already good, because later on in the game they will be able to refill your hand and get you that value.
The more I see this deck too, you know, I've kind of been learning as I go along as well. You know, my time playing this on ladder, I get stomped personally. I'm like, this is not working very well. I'm gonna stop. I feel like for SilverName, you know, the more I'm seeing it, Ursatron is just paramount importance early on in this deck. Like, it's such a difference in the way that your entire game plan plays.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of experimentation with with Ursatron in general, like people making Hunter decks that only run like Ursatrons and Ziliacs just to consistently draw it by turn 5 if they're not going for the Beast package, which is an interesting way of going about it. But I agree, that card is absolutely key in these early game turns, unless you get a completely blowout early start.
Kolento with a pretty nice hand here as well. I imagine tracking has a likelihood to be saved, although thinking about SilverName's deck, you know, there's one copy of Unleash the Hounds. That's basically it in terms of strictly fighting for board. Like, you have 2 bomb tosses that are in the deck to try to get something down and leverage and magnetize. I could see Kolento using tracking here, although I would imagine this is probably a conservative turn.
Could you see him just going tracking Timberwolf on this turn?
That's what I was alluding to,
yeah.
There's not a lot of counterplay options for SilverName.
Like, he doesn't have the ability to capitalize on that very well on the following turn, which is, I think, why he's holding back.
Yeah.
If he had a Spring Paw, or even just an Unleash the Hounds in hand, I think he'd be much more willing to throw it down there.
The fact that it's Master's Call, you want to hang on and find some better
combos.
turns. Yeah.
Again, Master's Call really being the thread that ties this whole deck together. Without that, you are not really allowed to play cards like Timberwolf, which on their own are so weak, but in combination with all the other rush and charge cards in your deck are so absurdly powerful.
Yeah, I feel like the moment that Hunter gets a good card draw effect, Timberwolf becomes a good card.
It becomes insane.
When you don't have those card draw effects, that card is like, oh, I can't use this. I really want it, but I just cannot.
Well, there's a reason why it hasn't been played, because for the vast majority of Hearthstone, Hunter has been much more akin to SilverName's deck, which is you play out quickly, you try and tempo out your opponent and kill them with the hero power, rather than playing all these card draw effects and going for a much more mid-range, even late game plan.
Yeah.
And personally, I'm very glad to see it. I think this mid-range Hunter deck is absolutely gorgeous to watch these fantastic players pilot.
Well, I said Ursatron. We got a pair of them.
This is a little bit slower from SilverName, but solidifying this board control, I think, is a much more appropriate game plan.
How often do you see multi-shot
Not often.
appear to your hand and you go, wow, that looks pretty good?
Has that card ever been played in
It's been
Hearthstone decks?
people have played it, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Here and there.
Not so certain to what degree of success, but it's happened.
Oh, it's happening now.
Yeah, that eye roll, I think, is fairly appropriate.
Dude, that was actually just pretty nuts. It allows him to set up for a stronger Dire Frenzy turn in the coming turns.
Yeah,
it means there's no
disgusting.
magnetic.
That was a disgusting turn. Like, SilverName had set up literally 2 minions for magnetic.
Only Kolento, man. Who else? Okay, this is a hand. This is really starting to come together for Kolento now. He doesn't have to go off yet because... What am I looking at? Like, Timberwolf, Scavenging Hyena, double Spring Paw only obviously does 4 damage and therefore doesn't kill off the War Gear. So maybe he wants to be a little bit more conservative.
Well, staring at a War Gear that lives is scary.
That is scary. I'll agree with that.
I'm wondering if you do something weird like a Spring Pod. You have 2 copies of Dire Frenzy, so you still have Vicious Scale High Dire Frenzy.
It only goes to a 4/4 is the problem, though.
You use your board, right? You just use the whole board and clear it off.
What do you mean, sorry? With
like Spring Pod, Dire Frenzy. Oh, you don't have the mana.
Yeah,
oh my
only have
gosh,
5
I'm
mana.
stupid. Yeah. So that would mean tracking then? Try to find Kill Command, Deadly Shot? Maybe just build up the board as well. I think all of those plans are fine.
I can see this line of play. I really like keeping in his hand the ability to go for a Timberwolf, Scavenging Hyena, Spring Paw play. I think that's his power swing turn that he really needs to hold on to. And therefore, if SilverName here does go for a big magnetized play, be it with Ziliacs, or there could be another War Gear in his hand from where Kolento is sat, then he swings things back in his favor the turn after.
I think this is going to be hurty.
I wonder.
Like, I mean, I think SilverName can justify a double magnetize here. Again, we're looking at a lone copy of Deadly Shot in the opponent's deck. And I can think that SilverName would anticipate Kolento staying on primary. Again, you know, we look at the removed cards from secondary, the Vicious Scalehide comes out. You can't do that. You look at the tertiary deck, Kolento would be removing Timberwolf and Headhunter's Hatchet. He's not doing that.
Yeah, that's true. I think I like this a little bit more, though. I think it still very nicely keeps up the pressure, but by splitting his minions over two bodies here, Sorry, Deadly Shot is not so powerful. The board is cleared, and 5 damage goes face as well.
Wow. The Shimmerfly draw. You know, I think that's exactly what Kolento was thinking about, was I just need to draw lots of stats in the next couple turns, and I'm going to need options.
Yeah.
So the Shimmerfly increases the draw of his deck and kind of his comeback from behind potential the most.
Yeah.
And you end up in this spot. This is really interesting.
As Kolento gets another pretty good randomly generated spell there. Able to clear off a lot of the damage on board.
Oh.
Ooh. Ooh. This is a complicated turn, though, because just jamming the War Gear and pushing face for 10.
You could attach the Venomizer, too. Like, you could push for 12 here and have a 10 health minion in play.
Do you not think that holding onto the Venomizer might be too valuable, right? Because if he gets the missile launcher anytime soon, that could be a pretty powerful combo.
The thing I'm worried about from SilverName's side really is the Shimmerfly. I'm worried about Shimmerfly. I'm worried about Timberwolf turns that are coming up because Kolento's hitting big mana.
I think what I'm worried about most from SilverName is the possibility of a Deadly Shot. I know there's only one in the deck, but your opponent has access to 2 trackings, obviously, to try and find them sooner. He could very well have it in his hand waiting for you to go all in on a big minion.
He hasn't really hit that point where just stuff has lived. So continue to build towards that point. The minute that you have something super important stick to board, that's when you go in.
I like this from SilverName. I think he's still in a good enough spot to the point where he can make these lines of play, where he doesn't go all in on big minion and get blown out. Ooh. Double Hyena, Timberwolf, double Springpaw is a pretty juicy play.
So you get 4 attack immediately. You have 5 attached to the Springpaw. So that would be actually kill the mechanical whelp and then kill the big whelp.
Are you able to do that?
So it's first Springpaw. Nope, you can't do that. You're missing damage.
Oh, no, you can do that exactly.
You can.
With the buff.
That moves
yeah,
to 5.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Is that better than killing the War Gear, though? Because you get to push 5 damage to face if you...
I think it's better.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it just clears more attack off the board.
But this makes the hyenas as big as possible.
It really does. And this is the swing turn that Kolento was looking for. Now for SilverName, he has these magnetized effects. He has the Venomizer. But if he starts sacrificing off his board control here just to clear off these hyenas, that is when Kolento starts to capitalize on his own board plan and really start to push back.
This is not going to work for SilverName. He's only got 1 minion. Like, if you kill a hyena, the other one gets bigger.
He is unable to kill both. You obviously can't poisonous a bomb toss until it's already been thrown down. Yeah.
I'm quite worried. So, to me, the plan is then counterpunch, but if you go for a counterpunch, you could just die.
So if he trades in the War Gear into one of the hyenas, goes for Boommaster Flark, that gives a very, very good chance that one of the bombs will stick around till the following turn. At which point you could magnetize the poisonous Venomizer onto it and then try and kill off the other hyena. That's a lot of damage that you've taken in the meanwhile, though, as SilverName.
You're looking at, right now in the immediacy, if SilverName only kills 1 minion, that's 12 on board. And Kolento's going to go in a turn with 8 available mana. If you play Bluemaster Flark, like, I'm pretty sure that Unleash the Hounds kills you.
It comes very close, at least. But what are the choices he have?
I don't think he has one, which again leads me to that thinking of where did this go wrong? Like, it felt like it was going so well for SilverName.
And, you know, to your point earlier of just sticking on big minions onto that one War Gear, maybe that was the play. Because like you said, Kolento has already played a Master's Call. He hasn't spent a lot of his mana in the recent turns. He's coming up to something. Something big is going to happen in the next few turns. And so therefore, if he had just magnetized all his minions and gone face, maybe that gave him the highest chance.
That's how I lose to this deck every single time. They just magnetize all their minions and go face.
Obviously, we can see Kolento had the punish to that line of play as well with Scalehide and Dire Frenzy.
I'm not sure it's a punish. I think his minions would have been big enough. You know, everything gets checked and you slam your Cairn, you slam your Mechanical Whelp, you start putting on the Replicating Menaces to those. I feel like that you have to go big with this deck, or that's it.
He was doing that, though. He was putting the most amount of stats on board every single turn. He just wasn't pushing the maximum face damage every turn.
You're not wrong.
As the pressure absolutely does not stop this. SilverName,
11 attack.
SilverName can start to wrestle this back.
Okay.
He's got the Venomizer to kill off the Hyena. He could then magnetize a Menace to kill off the Scalehide, I suppose?
You could throw on Fireworks
Or a
deck.
Bomb Toss and a Fireworks deck. Yeah, okay.
There's quite a lot going on this
There's
turn.
a lot going on this turn. He's 1 mana short of being able to do everything he wants.
But I think you're okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can't do everything you want. Here, it's the War Gear instead, right? You magnetize the War Gear and punch the Shimmerfly.
Okay.
All right, we have some game here still. Like, SilverName's hand is still very big. The problem is that Kolento's on an offensive now, and all the extra spells he's getting are leading to this.
Oh. How much
9,
damage
10,
is that?
11 plus 5, so 16. Kolento can set SilverName to 2.
Ziliax has been played this game.
It's gone.
That's checkmate, right?
That is 5. So you would have to die on the counterattack.
Yeah.
Which there's 5 in play right now, which would drop you to 18. SilverName has to come up with 18 damage? Like, no way that's happening.
If he kills off all the bombs on that turn, then that would be...
18, let's just say, then you have 10 more damage still to go.
Yeah. I guess, actually, with this line of play, Kolento can just go for the kill command on the following turn. Yeah. I love it. This is safe, even against some super fringe outs for lethal here.
Got!
Job done.
And as SilverName needs to accrue 21 damage just to stay alive in this game. It's looking more and more, to be perfectly honest. Like, he's just got a little bit predictable in this week of Grandmasters, bringing again this Mech Hunter, the power level of which does not seem to justify becoming this predictable. Kolento can just easily close this one out.
2-0 for Kolento, moves up to a 3-2 score overall. You know, 3-2 for Kolento, I think gives you an idea of how tough Grandmasters has been, because Kolento, undoubtedly, I think one of the best that's been out there.
Yeah.
And I think that in Grandmasters, he's been playing pretty darn well as well. You know, I feel like I often philosophically take a different stance than what Kolento does.
Absolutely.
But I see so much brilliance, and I learn so much when I watch Kolento of, like, when should I be taking the time to just secure everything? Because I feel like my biggest weakness as a player is that when I have the best draws, I play them too lackadaisically, and I see that fall by the wayside. Kolento, I feel like, gets the big draw and gets the big lead. It does not ever slip away.
He really doesn't. I mean, there's a reason why he's considered one of the gods of Hearthstone over the entire history of the game. He has just been absolutely dominant. But I think, as you said, for Kolento having, what is it now, a 3-2 record, last week when he brought the same mage deck as he brought in week 1, that was when he started to suffer. And so I think we're actually starting to see a trend here in Grandmasters where bringing the same deck 2 weeks in a row does just make you exploitable. We're seeing it here from SilverName now being destroyed in that game by Kolento. For Swids with his Bomb Warrior 2 weeks in a row, it just became a little bit obvious as to what his strategy was. And so I love here for Kolento switching up, going over to the mid-range Hunter, playing it very beautifully as well, it has to be said, and really just outplaying SilverName in this game.
Let's hear it from the man himself. Kolento, can you hear us?
I can hear you, guys. Hello.
Hello, congratulations on your win here today. I'm going to ask you straight away about the deck. You played Mage for 2 weeks in a row, and this week you swapped up to the Beast Hunter. What prompted the change?
I just didn't want to play Mage all the time. Mage is a great deck, but it's exploitable, I guess. And if you take it against Mage yourself, I don't like it because it makes it so bad against anything else. I just took Bunny's list from the previous week because I trust him, and well, I want to play Hunter. I think it's good right now.
What makes Hunter so good right now, in your opinion?
Mostly nerf of their weapon, or nerf of the Radiant Party, and Rogue not being so good at all. Hunter cannot run any weapon removal like Ooze or Heist and Jones because of Call to Arms, so you can't attack against Rogue so well.
Well, we want to know what your opinion is on SilverName's Mech Hunter, because we're kind of not really sure what he was trying to target with this deck strategy. Do you think that Mech Hunter was a good bring this week, or was it just getting a little bit predictable?
I don't know what did other people bring. Like I haven't checked. If there are a lot of warriors, like it's good against warrior and it's not bad against mage. So it's actually good against mage too. So if he expected me to bring mage, it was a fine choice. Same as if somebody was bringing warrior. Just not so great against hunter.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your side deck as well. I see in your tertiary deck you've included an augmented Elic, which doubles a bunch of shuffles in there. Is this a specific deck for warrior, or have you found any other purposes for the augmented Elic? Because you also add in a vicious scalehide.
As I said, I just took Bunny's list.
Just straight
Of
up.
course, it's for warrior.
How much practice
I
did you get in with
obviously
this?
I obviously checked the lists and I didn't find anything terribly wrong, so I just went with it.
Well, all right. That's pretty much about as simple as you can get then. Take Bunny's lists and play him, because Bunny's good and he makes good decks. Kolento, congratulations on your win, and look forward to seeing you looking forward to seeing you play later this week.
Thank you, guys.
It's
Just that easy.
It's just so funny interviewing Kolento because he's obviously just so absurdly good at the game and always has been. But then he says stuff like, I haven't checked out what the other lists were this week. I just copied Bunny's deck list from last week.
Honestly, if you think about it, that's pretty smart. Like, if I just copied Bunny Hopper's deck list all the time, I'd probably be a lot better at, having a good deck.
Right. I mean, it makes sense, but he's like that kid at school who never tried but always just got straight A's every time because he's just smart.
He's just Darroch Brown.
That was absolutely not me. Well, up until like age 7. I think I peaked then. I was a very smart 7-year-old.
Just all downhill since there.
It's just been plummeting.
Hey, at least you hit the peak.
That's true.
Yeah. For me, it's just been
It's all
constantly
trough.
rolling downhill from where it all started. All right, well, that's our first match in the book. Kolento makes it sound a lot simpler, I think, than it actually is. Guy's good at Hearthstone.
Really
First match in the book, SilverName. He's going to have to figure something out. It's been a rough start for him, 1-4 in match record now. And we're moving on to our second match of the day after a quick break. Phenomeno versus Boston is coming up, and Boston on the chopping block in an important match. Pheno 4-0, Boston 1-3. Second match of Grandmasters, European region, coming up.